In this video we will be taking a look at modern Ukrainian tank protection, specifically explosive reactive armors and the active protection systems they are using. And we'll mainly focus around their best tank, BM Oplot. This video is sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder is a military vehicle combat online game. It is free to play on PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Not to mention that it is cross-platform between PC and consoles. The game features an incredible arsenal of more than 1500 historically accurate, playable tanks, aircraft, helicopters and ships from 1930s to 1990s. Best thing about the game are its realistic physics and one of the most detailed and immersive vehicle damage models in gaming. If you use my link to register, you will receive a bonus, a premium vehicle, tank, aircraft or ship, as well as a 3-day account boost. The game is completely free, so nothing is stopping you. You can start playing immediately. There are two explosive reactive armors used for tanks in Ukraine. Those are Noj, which is the weaker one, and Duplet, which is the better one. But in order to understand Duplet, we need to look at Noj first. Noj ERA works in the way like the shaped charge projectile. On its construction, it has several shaped charges placed one next to each other, which are activated once the projectile hits the panel. Once hit, the shaped charges shoot the jet into the incoming projectile in order to degrade its penetration. It affects APF-SDS projectiles in the way that each shaped charge shifts the angle of impact of the projectile with its force, sometimes even cutting the projectile if it is some older one that is particularly made out of steel, but that is very unlikely to happen to modern ones that are made out of depleted uranium and tungsten. Against shaped charges, it works in a way that it sends its own jet to intercept the jet of the projectile that hits the tank, degrading its penetration. As previously noted, Noj works better against older APF-SDS projectiles, where it would significantly degrade their penetration, but it is not nearly as good against modern projectiles. But it will still affect them. Good thing about it is that the panel is the same size as any other Soviet-style explosive reactive armor, so it can be inserted in Contact 1 blocks, as seen on modernization of T-64BV tanks in Ukraine. So, now taking all of that in mind, we can take a look at the Duplet ERA. Duplet is basically made out of multiple layers of Noj explosive reactive armor. There are 3 layers on the turret, but the projectile can only be struck by 2 of them. That is why there are 2 layers on the hull's front. And on the sides, it has 3 layers, but they are not sloped because they are intended to affect the projectiles coming from an angle. This increases the effectiveness if the tank is indeed hit from an angle, but if hit directly it won't be nearly as effective because only 1 or 2 shaped charges from a panel would have an effect on a projectile. On trials, 3 BM-42 Mango managed to penetrate only 60mm after getting affected by Duplet. The shot was taken at 100 meters, and on that range 3 BM-42 has around 500mm of penetration, which means that the projectile lost 88% of its penetration. The performance was even better when they tested French OFL 120 F1 projectile. After going through the ERA, it only managed to make 15 to 20mm dent on the armor. Even though OFL F1 has better penetration than Mango, Mango still managed to do better, and here is why. 3 BM-42 Mango has a 2-piece core which increases its effectiveness against ERA because first part of the core is affected the most, because it is the first one that strikes a tank. Meanwhile, OFL F1 has 1-piece core, which means the entire core is affected by the ERA. Both 3 BM-42 and OFL 120 F1 are monoblock projectiles, just like every other modern projectile. Although they are far longer and better projectiles nowadays, they would still get affected a lot by Duplet and wouldn't be able to penetrate the tank. The tank was also tested against tandem-shaped heat projectiles, which barely made a scratch on the base armor of the tank. Duplet ERA, together with base armor of BM Oplot, makes it by far the most protected tank in the world. Although you might see some pictures of the tank lacking ERA on the gun mantle, that is only done on presentations because it obscures the driver's hatch from being opened completely. But on actual production variants, the ERA block is present right next to the gun, which collapses when the driver opens his hatch, which means that it does not prevent any entrance or exit of the tank. So at the end, that means that the tank has no weak spots. Even the explosive reactive armor on the side covers the entire side of the tank, unlike most tanks which only have additional protection on the frontal part of the hull's side. The best explosive reactive armors we can actually compare to Duplet are Russian Relict and Chinese Fi-4, which is practically the reverse engineered Relict. I won't talk about Malachite ERA that is currently installed on Armata because the tank isn't in active service yet and we simply don't have any information on that ERA. Relict is claimed to be able, by the manufacturer, to stop projectiles that can penetrate up to 800mm together with the base armor of the tank. To understand this better, you must consider that the base armor of T-72B is rated around 500mm against APF SDS projectiles. T-90M's base armor is much better improvement of that and should be at least 600mm of throat homogeneous armor equivalency. Another various documents state that Relict reduces 40% of APF SDS penetration, which would for T-72B and T-90 variants make sense, since the manufacturer provides the 800mm claim. So, all in all, Duplet with its up to 90% of offered APF SDS protection clearly outperforms Relict, but there is a downside. Duplet is much heavier than Relict is. The entire package is at least a ton heavier than one of Relict. Relict in that regard would have the best weight to performance ratio, but still, the point stands. Duplet offers better protection. BM Oplot can also be equipped with Zaslon Hardkill active protection system. Good thing about this active protection system is that we, just like for Duplet, have footage from the tests. It should come to no surprise that this APS stops pretty much any hollow charge projectile, since all Hardkill active protection systems are designed to do that. What is special about this APS is that it can actually intercept APF SDS projectiles. We actually have footage of Zaslon intercepting 3BM22 APF SDS projectile. It didn't go much into the armor, but you have to consider that the main body of the projectile is made out of steel, which is why it was damaged to that extent. Modern projectiles are made out of tungsten and depleted uranium, which are much stronger materials. But we can conclude several things from the footage. Since the muzzle velocity of 3BM22 is 1750 meters per second, we can conclude that APS can detect projectiles that go as fast, which is pretty much the best that we have today. Projectiles such as DM-63 and Russian Svinets-1 both have muzzle velocity of 1750 meters per second, so the speed is not a problem for this APS. Now, modern projectiles, as I said, won't get affected by the active protection system nearly as much as the one of the footage, but we can expect a decent amount of degradation in performance since the APS would change the impact angle of the projectile, reducing its performance. What is also good about this APS is that it comes in packages, which can be placed wherever you want in the tank, including the roof armor, which would offer protection against top attack munitions. Each pack has its own radar and two launchers, where one is active and the other one comes out when the first one is expanded. Keep in mind that this is not unique for Zaslon. Germany has had history of developing hardkill APS systems that can intercept APF SDS projectiles, such as ADS. Russian Afghanit APS, which is installed in T-14 Armata, is also claimed to be able to intercept APF SDS projectiles, which is very likely since both Zaslon and Afghanit are based on old Soviet experimental active protection systems. Don't forget to check out War Thunder, where you can take control of many land, air, or naval vehicles. Use the link from the description to get a premium vehicle and a 3-day account boost when you register. Remember, the game is completely free for PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Just download and play. So, in conclusion, together with Duplet and Zaslon, BM Oplot has definitely the best protection in the world. But Ukraine currently operates just a handful of those tanks, where a majority of their production was reserved for Thailand, which also took years to deliver the entire agreed amount of 49 tanks. Another issue is that BM Oplot is not equipped with Zaslon APS by default, and it has only been shown with it in computer simulations and presentations. But there is no BM Oplot equipped with Zaslon in service. I mean, this kinda makes sense since the system can be just mounted on a tank, so there is no need for special preparations. Of course, you would need to create places where the system would need to be bolted or whatever, but that can be done with special tools in the field. And that would be all. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my content, you can consider supporting me on Patreon. If you're new, you can subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you all in the next video. Have a nice day.